Welcome. My name is Kendra Larson, and I am the Archer Gallery Director and the Clark Art Talks Coordinator. Today we are very lucky to have the wonderful Trude Parkinson here as our guest artist. Trude is a visual artist based in Portland, Oregon. She received her MFA in painting and drawing from Arizona State University and has served on the art department. Oh my gosh, you guys, I'm so tired today, sorry. Facilities of Marylhurst University and Arizona State University. Work has been exhibited at the Portland Art Museum, Marylhurst University, and at Parsons the New York School of Design in New York. She has had solo exhibitions at the Scottsdale Center for the Arts, the University of Arizona, and Wolfson College, Oxford University, England. Her work is in many collections, nationally and internationally, including the Henry Ford Collection and the Museum of Women in the Arts in Washington, D.C. And I'll just add that I met Trude, I think we met here on campus, actually, another talk, but
yes.
At Ogden as well.
Right.
So she shows the Ogden Gallery in downtown Portland. And her work is just wonderful. So I'm really, really glad that we get to have her here today to talk about it. So welcome, Trude.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, I think I need to say first of all, I'm old, and I have a hearing loss. So I'm going to ask you to wait till the end of the talk to have a conversation and to ask questions, and also because I'll probably need to have somebody translate for me because of my hearing. So we'll see how that goes. And also I'm going to have to deal with the technology up here, pushing several buttons at once and hope that everything works together. So let me know if I'm talking about something that you're not seeing. You think you're seeing something that I'm not forwarding to. So first of all, I've been making art for a long time. And Kendra asked me to talk to you about what keeps me going. Because I'm 84 now, and so I've been making art what seems like my entire life. And what I want to do is to introduce you to the ideas and the artworks and the writings and the places that have amazed and inspired me. I also want you to think about the word energy. So that's an important concept here. But first, I think, so I don't have to interrupt myself, I would like to give you a short synopsis of my life. So I was born in 1940, and I grew up in Berkeley, Albany, and Lodi, California. And right now, I want to know if you can hear me. Am I loud enough? Okay. Does that mean yes or no back there?
I can hear you. Thumbs up.
Yes.
Thumbs up. Okay. Thank you. Okay. So in California, these small towns in California. It's important that I tell you I had no specific religious upbringing, but I was encouraged to read everything. My grandfather put me through college at UC Berkeley with the caveat that I not become an artist. My mother and his sister, my great aunt, were artists, and he was an engineer and had hopes that I might do something practical. So instead I became an English major, which was no more practical. So. But after college, I taught English and creative writing for a while to junior high school students. I got married. I had 3 beautiful children, and who now have children of their own, completely grown. I moved to Arizona. I went back to school and got an MFA, and I began an art career that still gives me great pleasure and satisfaction in solving problems and overcoming obstacles. So I've made a living working for arts commissions and teaching, including PNCA, Marylhurst, all the things that Kendra mentioned. So there are many ways to make a living and still be an artist. Let's see. I need to mention that also both words and images are important in my work, but I lean toward the visual because of my hearing loss. So I hope we can have a good conversation later. I'm actually reading lips now, and I'm a candidate for a cochlear implant, so I hope that happens soon, but it sounds a little scary. Okay, now I'm going to see if I can go forward on these for you and for me. Let's see what happens here. I think you're going to be seeing my studio, I hope. So this is the studio that I have now that keeps me coming back to see what will happen next. I have various locations in my studio where I work, and it's something different going on in each corner. So that's my studio's important, and I've not always worked in a studio like this. I've worked in attics and basements and everywhere. Okay. So these, hopefully, are objects and artworks in my studio that keep me connected with my intentions on a daily basis. There's a tantric painting from northern India. That's the little black square. It has lots of arrows in it. There's a papier-mâché Buddha. For me, it's a reminder of emptiness, impermanence, and maybe a little bit of wisdom. I'm interested in Buddhism. I'm not a Buddhist, but I'm interested in the philosophy. That's what resonates with me. So I encountered Buddhist images when I was a child. My grandfather collected artifacts, and there was a giant cardboard cutout Buddha that my mother painted as a teenager, and it was in my grandparents' upstairs hall for years. That was very impressive to me. There was a stone Buddha in my childhood home that held our broken refrigerator door shut, and a stack of books were under one of the feet of a broken table. It gives you a sense of my home. Right now I'm archiving and making more work. The next image I want to show you is a painting I recently discovered. I want you to keep it in mind as I go through my talk. I'm going to focus on memory, words, images, and the body, and the mystery of existence. Also curiosity. I would like to suggest for students, because I'm really here to talk to students, that you keep a sketchbook where at least every day you put something in there, whether it's a word or an image, and keep it dated. Just something simple every day so that you have a record, because I'm archiving now and I wish I had done that. Okay, so let's see, here we go. This is my first image. Okay, this watercolor was done in 1944 when I was 4 years old. We had watercolors because my mother was an artist, and I painted outdoors. And I can actually physically recall the immense joy I felt in letting watercolor flow and adding more color and watching the colors merge. I'm amazed also at my attempts to figure out geometry and perspective. So it's really interesting looking back. I've not seen this for years. And looking at it now, this image brings to mind the psychological turmoil of 5 people living in a small house on Spruce Street in Berkeley, as well as the fact that we were in the throes of World War II. During my early childhood, we drew blackout shades at night to keep the West Coast dark. Adult fears and hopes were palpable, not understood but felt by a child of 4. That's what I see in this image. Soon, nuclear holocaust also became a terrifying presence, and then shortly after, we began sending rockets and people into space. All of these experiences and events have found their way into my art. I have no idea what I was thinking when I was 4, but I'm grateful to be able to look at this image and wonder at the energy that emanates from it, inviting to be read 80 years later. So I wonder what you see. I'm curious about what mediums draw you to it. So the idea of energy that emanates from an artwork, no matter what the medium, is an important aspect of what's kept me going. So the next image, I just want to say I've never forgotten it because, and it's not mine, I was inspired not by the content or style or who the artist was, but because of the energy. I think you'll recognize the artist. I hesitated to put this in here, but just a second, and here it will come up. Okay. So I think you could, I don't know if you can read the little words beside the images.
Didn't come up.
Yeah, okay. But I remember being immobilized before this drawing. So I need to do with this one. Okay. Thank you. That's what I need. I need a prompt. Okay, thanks. I remember being immobilized before this drawing, enraptured by the realization that I was witness to the remnants of human energy left by the traces of a reed pen by someone standing in a field trying to record the sense of being alive in that place at that moment. I couldn't look away, and in my mind, I redrew the drawing mark by mark. So I think you recognize Van Gogh, but I was just amazed by just those marks. It didn't matter who made them. It was the energy that still remained over the years. So I wanted to show you that, and then also some writings by other artists who have inspired me because of my background both in art and English and literature. So this is James Joyce, and I'll let you read it while I talk about it. I identified, thank you. Okay, I have to remember to push 2 buttons. Okay, I identified with Stephen Dedalus, completely ignored the pronoun, and took to heart the spiritual quality of Joyce's aesthetic theory. I don't know how many of you know the myth of Daedalus and Icarus. Anybody not know that myth? Okay. If you don't, it's Daedalus was what Joyce calls the great artificer or creator. He and his son Icarus were imprisoned in a labyrinth with a monster, the Minotaur. And Daedalus used wax and feathers to make wings for Icarus in order to set Icarus free. But Icarus, in his exuberance, did not heed his father's warning, and he flew too close to the sun and fell into the sea. So that was the end of Icarus. But Daedalus remained in the labyrinth, and he became the symbol of the artist, the bearer of truth and wisdom and knowledge and power. So it's worthwhile to become an artist. Okay, let's make sure I get both of these now. Okay, so here's another writer. This has influenced me. Harlem, a great poem that can be read on many levels. It had significant political, cultural, and literary influence on Martin Luther King, for one, but it can also be read on the individual level as a metaphor for our emotional, interior life. So the question I'd like to ask you to ask yourself, what do you dream, and how do dreams deferred explode? So at one point in my life, I felt like I was sagging, as Langston Hughes said, sagging. And I took a drawing class, and my energy and joy were reignited. I recognized that art making was essential to my well-being. So this work, made with watercolor and burned paper, speaks to this issue in language of materials, water as a source for renewal, and the explosion of burned paper. I also wonder how much explosive pain, anger, and destruction. Thank you, Kendra. Maybe I should just have you push the button there.
I'm okay with that.
Okay. Okay, that's the image. Okay, thank you. Anyway, I wonder how much can be averted through the emotional outlet of creating art in some form, whatever form. Okay, next one. At the same time, I was painting. This oil painting was done around the same time. I was thinking of things broken and fragmented, interested in texture, ideas of destruction as part of creation, a light and shadow. And then, okay, this book influenced me, a lot of my work at this time. I have the book here. I can pass it around. So it contains images and writings sent into outer space. Let's see, it was sent on a gold-plated record aboard the Voyager in 1977, and the book form was made available, and I bought a copy, which is here. So much in this book still strikes me as absurd. The light and shadows and photographs distort our reading of them, and so many images are illegible, not only to me, but I imagine any inhabitant of outer space would be perplexed. So it just struck me, what do we send into outer space that somebody might be able to read? Sort of ridiculous. Okay. All right, so this is a collage that I made, thinking that painting, the illusion of fragments in that painting that I was doing was not as powerful as the literal fragmentation of collage. So I started doing a lot of collage with torn papers. So in this piece called Offerings for Outer Space, it's a direct response to Murmurs of Earth, to that book, an alternative of absurd, unreadable collages, literal pieces of earth going nowhere. Also, with 3 small children at the time, 2 of whom were twins, I had only fragments of time, enough time to make one small collage. So then I put them together on this plexiglass. The viewer's reflection would come back to them. And then on January 28, 1986, the Challenger exploded after takeoff from Cape Canaveral, killing the astronauts, including the first female astronaut, a school teacher, Krista McAuliffe. This is my personal homage to Krista McAuliffe. These materials all have a language: pastel, particles made of earth, a weather map, handmade papers, a burned paper airplane, an unreadable poem, a fishing fly, and a trouble or worry doll. So also, let's see. Okay. One of the early memories that I have of painting are efforts to make letters out of a very handy material, which is mud. In 1987, I began to think of my early mud explorations and the question, what comes first, image or word? Because of mud, you can make either or both. Paint too, any way you want. So Open Windows, I wanted to continue both image and the idea of word, a letter half formed from sound. So maybe I was having hearing loss already because it's hereditary. Materials are pastel, burned weather maps and book pages, rolled poem, and a firecracker. So the idea of explosion is still there. Then in this image, I attached terracotta figures, each carrying a small, absurd burden, and also technological artifacts that were beginning to be used to make computers, like space debris. These artifacts have outlived their usefulness, so this piece really preserved a moment in time. The silver paper was among a cache of Japanese papers I bought from a woman in Phoenix who had she'd had a neighbor who made lampshades out of Japanese paper. He moved back to Japan and left her the papers. They were in big barrels. There were hundreds of them. I still have some. Let me know if you're interested. So this idea of the objects. In 1989, I worked as an artist in residence for the Arizona Commission on the Arts, which is where I was living. The residency workshops took me to remote parts of Arizona where I discovered milagros. How many of you know what milagros are? Okay. They're little, they're charms. They're used as prayers. They really mean, translated into Spanish, they mean miracles. They're often used for healing, and they can be specific. If something is wrong with your car, your phone, or your foot, there's a milagro that should heal you. There's a milagro for that purpose that should heal you. So I thought of these found objects, which are a lot of technological objects, as charms or amulets, similar to milagros. And then I became involved in a public art project for the city of Phoenix. It's called Cordova Garden. It was on a half-mile of median strip over a canal, an ancient canal developed by the Hohokam people who originally lived on this land. And there was a utility corridor, and I could use what's called the boneyard, which are all the remnants, to create this artifact called that I called a milagro pole. And students made their own milagros by hammering aluminum siding. So the local public television station produced a documentary entitled, "Is This Art or Is This Junk?" And so there was a controversy. But the project won an award for environmental excellence, and it still stands. So here are the student milagros. I think they got a lot of energy out of hammering with nails on these aluminum siding pieces. This is a milagro that traveled with me for several years from Arizona to Portland, seeing me through significant life changes, including a trip to Crete, a 6-month stay in Oxford, England, and a hiatus in New York, where I spent part of every week as artist in residence at Princeton University. So in 1992, friends who had moved to Eugene invited me to be an artist in residence in their home to create an artwork for the new house. They wanted something for over their entryway, which is where it is. I collected personal found objects from them and used colors and textures from their travels to create this piece that could be viewed from beneath and also from the stairs. So I used some more terracotta objects underneath the collage pieces that held them off at the surface. So, am I going too fast, too slow? Everything okay? All right. So, again, in Portland, when I moved to Portland, this is one of the first pieces I made. I wanted to return to painting and keep elements of collage, so it was an experiment. I wanted to explore verticality after working with the Milagro pole. So the image in the top panel is derived from a sail I saw hanging from the ceiling of the Pitt Rivers Museum in Oxford, England, a very strange museum of cultural anthropology with collections from the Victorian era. Colonialism per se, incredible and problematic. It's worth looking at because you can take tours through it. You find there are drawers with all kinds of things, including, I found one with gingerbread in it from 100 years ago. So, in any case, the top panel is about light and taking flight. The middle panel is earth, and then the bottom panel is ashes. So from there, I started painting again. A series of acrylic paints, but the idea of things hanging from the ceiling became important. I began with photographs of people from my family, wondering who is this person? How do we know another person really? This painting was from a photograph of my mother on her wedding day. Her artistic life got sidelined by 5 children. I wanted to give her back her dream. So on the back of each painting, I put a collage with copies of photographs and words on silverleaf paper. I was wondering about the ways in which we digest meaning and how we document lives. There's some documentation on this, on the back of this that was disturbing to me. So that's for a question later. So I installed these paintings as rooms in a memory palace. The idea of a memory palace is you think of a room with an item to be remembered in it and picture it in that room as an aid to remembering the item, like a grocery list. The paintings hang from the ceiling by copper wire so both sides can be seen. I thought of them as a non-linear storyboard and as icons which are intended to be touched and also contemplated. So the idea of book, the storyboard, I also made books. This is one that I made for another of my family members, a favorite aunt who was a gardener. The pages are a poem, and it reads in a circle from front to back and back again. I wanted it to rise like a plant out of the basalt cobble. So books were important for a while, and then these paintings are waiting to become a book. They come from a residency in 2005, so I'm skipping years, in Worpswede, Germany, supported by the Oregon Arts Commission. I explored the role of the landscape in my paintings. I was really enthralled by these flatlands. They're watery. They're in northern Germany where my father was born. I had access to an old bicycle, and I spent almost every day exploring the paths through the marshes and then climbing occasional hillsides to paint watercolor of the long view where the land merges with the sky and the horizon disappears. So Worpswede was important to me because it was an artist colony where the poet Rilke and the painter Paula Modersohn-Becker lived. And Paula Modersohn-Becker is in the news right now because she has a show in New York, and for a long time she was ignored. So she's worth looking at. Okay, so we're here. Thank you. On my return, I began more paintings, this time in oil. In these paintings, many of the figures face away from the viewer, surveying the path at the horizon and beyond. On the backs of each painting, again, is a collage with some of my writing. The backs are related obliquely to the front. They're not literal. They're not an explanation. So then they were exhibited in a line like this, having the idea was of a spiritual journey that goes upward, a path. I began to think of words on the backs as voices, wanting to make themselves heard. Different colors and different texts suggested different voices. During the opening of an exhibition at the Art Gym, which is no longer in existence, the curator, Terry Hopkins, and I asked people to read the words aloud. The result was an incredible murmuring of voices. Other individuals volunteered to read, and another sang the installation. I've had a vocalist sing my work at several exhibitions, sometimes without words, just with sound. After another residency, this was at Painting's Edge in Idlewild, Southern California, I made paintings where the landscape and horizon disappeared entirely. The figures remained. This time, a double figure, a shadow figure, or alter ego. You might want to know my model was Mark Bradford. Has anybody heard of Mark Bradford? Okay. Mark Bradford was there to critique our work, and he willingly agreed to let me photograph him for my paintings. So I have quite a few paintings with Mark as my subject matter. Okay, then these are some other things that inspired me. The idea of shadows, and this is Etruscan sculpture that I brought back from Italy. It's called Shadow of the Evening. It has it's the idea of the long shadow cast at twilight, and the original inspired Giacometti, another artist that you should know about if you're interested. It inspires me. So it personifies the concept of shadow, which became important to me. I began using photographs of cast shadows, the subject matter. So many cast shadows when we use our phones. In Jungian psychology, shadow refers to the unconscious aspects of our personalities, both positive and negative, the things we don't really know about ourselves. Then this painting is a transition in materials. I used two overlapping paintings on translucent yupo, so there's a shadow behind. No horizon, no cast shadow. I used lithographic touche, which is usually used in printmaking, on yupo. I really like the way it reticulated. So I thought you might like to see this next one, especially Stephen. I don't know if you've seen that. Do anybody recognize him? Yeah. Okay. Okay. So the next work is very, very important to me, a major shift in my work, completely new approach to materials. This photograph on silver halide of the Andromeda galaxy was taken by the astronomer Edwin Hubble, way before the Hubble that we know, in 1923. I came across these photographs in 2011 at the Huntington Library in Pasadena, in an exhibition mounted by NASA. In his photographs, I witnessed tangible pinpoints of oxidized silver, heaped where photons from distant stars disrupted the silver halide surface of the photograph. I was amazed at this starlight coming into our world from so far away, leaving its evidence. So these little pinpoints actually stood up. They were actually substance. It was pretty incredible, I thought. So then I started trying to find a means of painting to get this idea, because I'm not a photographer. So I began to search. What I did was to find this metallic paint that could be oxidized. So I made this first image out of metallic paint, a figure as an accumulation of stardust. And then the graphite drawings above, I don't know how well you can see them. They are sound into image, the ear into a lotus, and the figure is of my cast shadow. Then I found my way into the alchemical world of silver leaf and oxidation. Here I adhered silver leaf to Kitakata paper. I want you to know the process a bit. I diluted liver of sulfur, which is sulfur, with water, and painted and spattered as though using watercolor. Then I stopped the oxidation with Renaissance wax. It's a microcrystalline wax invented by the British Museum to stop oxidation. So oxidation will turn the silver a dark color. My cast shadow is the subject. I'm not interested in accuracy, but the idea of mystery. So here's these next one these are some more images of something I used as subject matter. I went to Crete, and I became intrigued by these figures from approximately 3000 BC that have been found in the cracks and crevices of mountains in Crete's volcanic landscape. I suspect they function much like milagros as protection from whatever resided in the volcanoes. So I made drawings of these little terracotta figures. They're only about this big. Many of them. Some are bigger, but most of them are about this big. You can see the thumbprints from 3,000 years ago in these little pieces. So the drawings are pen, ink, and Conti crayon. And then from those drawings, I made other images. This little image is on sheet silver, which is a little actual piece of real silver. They're small because of the cost of silver and my propensity for experimenting. I'd like to do some big ones on silver, so it's literal silver. So this image, I wanted to put it in because it's on your flyer. This is on paper. It's painted, the silver leaf is put on paper with the size, and then it's oxidized slightly with liver of sulfur, and then I painted with the liver of sulfur liquid like watercolor, and just let accidents happen. I let it run into the background. I think I put water on first, and then let the water stay there, and then painted, and let it run. So accidents are important. They're not mistakes, they're accidents. You just treat them as accidents and keep going. These paintings are on translucent silk, so different material. They're double-sided, so there's another image on the back where you can see the shadow through. So again, they're made by painting with size or a glue in the shape that I wanted, then pressing the silver down, and then oxidizing the silver. So I hope this all makes sense. I don't quite know how to always explain it. So these are made the same way on large pieces of silk. I wanted you to see the scale difference, the small ones and large ones. So they're held up by, these are silver rods, they're pure silver, with something called pin clips that are worth knowing about too. Just little practical ways of hanging artwork. So these paintings, again, they're on a fabric. They're on recycled kimono silk from the interior of kimonos, where they've been next to the body. They retain the stains of being worn and threads. But I like the idea that I can use color, could use color by using them. But I really wanted to be able to paint over the oxidized silver, and I couldn't because it's applied with a water-based size, and it would lift if I tried to put paint over it. So somebody told me about a workshop that might solve my problem. So I went to this workshop. It was using something called Nihanga, which is traditional. Nihanga means Japanese painting. Traditional Japanese painting materials and techniques. Then I went to Massmoka, where I could explore these materials in depth. So you mix the glue, you heat the glues, and then you mix the glue with powdered pigments. I also use sumi, which are these ink sticks. I don't know if you're familiar with these at all, but so I may be giving you too much information, but maybe that can be clarified later. So the glue is also used to adhere the silk, adhere the silver, the same glue for paints for silver, and to cover the silver so that you can paint over the top of the silver. So that solved my problem because I can paint now over the silver. So there are names for everything and a way of using these. You can find them online if you look up Nihanga. So some more images for my subject matter, just so to clarify a little bit. I took images of shadows of these Buddhist sculptures that I saw at the Metropolitan or the Met in New York, the museum in New York. So I used the shadow rather than the figure. So you'll see some of those. And then I also used images from this dancer. This is Aiko Otaki, a performance artist who allowed me to photograph her in rehearsal at PICA, the Portland Institute for Contemporary Art. So I used those images to make these paintings. So this is using the Nihanga materials. This is silverleaf, and then over the top it's painted with these water-based painting pigments. And so this started to be COVID. This is during COVID now. So in COVID, this is the wall of my studio. I just did painting after painting. I almost consider everything I do as an experiment. So I just experimented one painting after the other. They're small, 6 inches. And then I don't know if I'll have time to show you, but I made a film using these images. But next, I do want to show you, though, another image that was made using the photographs that I took from Aiko Itaki. So the abstracted figure now, like shadows. This piece is important because it was bought by the Northwest Art Council for the Portland Art Museum. And one of my friends here is part of that, helped to make that happen. This is Dennis Bromka sitting over here. So during COVID, I also made these collages out of cutout papers, writings that I had done, sometimes dreams, all kinds of writings, writings from other people sometimes, but put them back together. And they make sort of a sense, a type of sense, but not completely. And then I have the film, but I think what I'd like to do is wait to the end to show the film, so I think I'm going to skip and go to another image that influenced me. This is called Nihanga. Not Nihanga, excuse me. This is called Kintsugi. Any of you heard of Kintsugi? Okay. I think it became something important during COVID because it's the idea that something that's broken you can put back together. The Japanese do this with gold. So the gold goes in between in the cracks. And the idea is that it makes something more beautiful and stronger than before. So I think it became important during COVID because, and right now it's important too because we live in a world that wants to be healed from violence, from division, from despair, from illness. So this is a very important symbol, I think, at the moment. So this is a painting that I did using the idea of kintsugi with the gold running through. So these are still the Japanese traditional pigments and silver leaf that I'm using. So this is the next project that I did, came from a poem that was, it was long, a really long poem, and I didn't know if it was a poem. It was kind of absurd, but I thought I might as well do this. It was during COVID again. I started putting these together. This is one painting, the painting on the front and the word, or sometimes just a letter on the back. And then I put them together to make it the entire poem. I've forgotten how many words it was, maybe close to 80 words. So I hung them in there's a gallery downtown called Nine Gallery that's in the back of a photography gallery, Blue Sky. Any of you know Nine Gallery? Yeah. Okay. Maybe we get students to visit there. So I hung them from the ceiling again. So you can see I hung a lot of works from the ceiling. The words faced the entry so that they were to be read when you came in. And then once you got to the end, if you read the whole poem, you could turn around and then you would see the fronts as you walked back out. So a couple of people sitting here in the front there saw that exhibition. And I think read the whole thing and turned around, which I appreciated very much. So the way an installation should be considered is as a work of art in itself, in my opinion. So I asked another artist to show with me, Terry Hopkins, who's also a curator and a friend. So her poems were shown on the back wall, and she helped me lay it out, the installation. So these two pieces, because of the words down here, are shown near the floor, close to the floor. And others were shown close to the ceiling, high enough that you really couldn't read them. I don't know if that was a good idea or not, but anyway, that's what we did. And others were close to the eye level, most of them. So that was an exhibition that I did in 2023. So I want you to know that I'm still making things. So last year, in 2024, again at 9 Gallery, I did an exhibition called Observations. So this is an oxidized, this is silver leaf oxidized on paper. People often think it's metal, but it's paper, and it was hung, these are the little pin clips. I don't know how well you can see them, but it made it so that the paper could float out from the wall, and as people walked by, it would move. So it made it come alive in a way. So the paper floated. And then with that, these images that look like nebula, there was also this image. Do you see anything? Okay. The centerpiece of Observations was a photograph on silver halide of the star Capella. This photograph was the brainchild of Dennis Bromka. Okay, please stand, Dennis. Raise your hand. Who was inspired by my paintings to contact the Golden Dale Observatory in Washington State, persuading the resident astronomer to help us use his telescope to photograph a star. We used the same silver halide technique Edwin Hubble had used to photograph the Andromeda, but we photographed Capella. We were assisted by photographer Ray Bidigan, who has expertise in historical photographs. He prepared glass plates with silver halide, climbed the stairs in the observatory to photograph Capella. Dennis and I had several failed attempts before we found Ray. So uncertainty, doubt, and failure were an ongoing part of this whole process. So the question, what constitutes failure? We, or at least Dennis, persevered, and we got this little dot of starlight. So this is actually oxidized silver, a little pile on the silver halide. Now I'm coming close to now. This painting was commissioned. It's on linen. It's one of the largest paintings I've done. It's 72 by 60 inches. So from these small 4-inch pieces to 72 by 60, it's with oxidized silver underneath and mineral pigments, the traditional Japanese techniques. But it felt like it could have failed at any moment. I ended up asking it, at first politely, then requiring, and finally demanding. It demanded. I didn't demand. I asked, then it asked me back what it required. Finally, it demanded poured as well as brushed paint. So I began pouring the paint. The painting itself decided what it wanted to be. So it was definitely in charge, and I really felt like it could fail any moment. I think it was successful, but I know what it went through. So I want to bring you to the last one, which is this one, because I asked you to keep this little painting in mind. Do you see any resemblance? I just was amazed. I think it's the same thing. So is it a house that I'm making now? The one on the right is what I'm doing now, but on a smaller scale. I think it's about 24 by maybe 15. But so is this a book too? You know, is it something to be read? The painting. So I was just surprised to see, you know, from 4 years old to now, that there's something there that's a resemblance. So at the moment, what I'm doing, I'm making these smaller paintings. So no title on this one yet. I'm also taking a workshop called Word, Text and Space at the Independent Publishing Resource Center in Portland. It's offered through PNCA by a wonderful writer, Jay Ponteri, and a visual artist who graduated from PNCA, Elizabeth Arzani. So I'm taking that every Wednesday, last Wednesday, this coming Wednesday. So I'm still going. No thought of stopping, except I have to keep archiving, making more, archiving. So every artwork always feels like a beginning again. It's always an uphill climb. I still face uncertainty and doubt, but I have faith in the value of curiosity and perseverance. I do also want to mention that one of the best things I've done for my entire career, and you might start young to do this. I created an advisory group I invited people to support me, people who love art and who are incredible human beings. So as an artist, I felt like I need to be careful who I invite into my studio. So these people have turned out to be incredible friends. What they do, they come in exchange for happy hour. I feed them and give them something to drink. And in exchange for feedback, advice, they share their wisdom with me in exchange for the food and drink. And they help me overcome puzzles, solve problems, and overcome obstacles. So Dennis is one of the people who comes to my studio once a month. He always has some ideas. And I would recommend asking other people, but be careful who you choose. Choose somebody you can really trust to give you some good feedback. Okay, so I can show the film.
Okay.
And then if we have time, maybe we do. We can ask questions. I was afraid I might rush a little bit, talk a little fast. You might not have time to look at the images, so I hope the speed was okay for you. I had to keep editing things out because my life has been too long. Okay, let's see if this will work. Okay, this is called Rocks House Churches, and it's a combination of poems and a reading. Let's see, I need to go up here.
It's playing on the screen.
Okay, is it on the screen?
It's on the screen.
Okay.
It has-
Okay, I hope it'll start.
it's on- if you look to-
Do I need to push it again?
If you look to the left, it's on this.
Oh, you did it.
Yep, it's right. Is there,
Okay, it's going?
yeah.
All right. The sound too?
Is there sound?
Okay, I just can't hear it. There's sound.
There we go.
Then maybe we can go back.
Yeah.
No, is there sound?
Yeah, there's sound. Let's see here. Technical.
Okay, thanks. I forgot I couldn't make it go on here. Okay.
There you go. Hopefully.
Some of you have seen
Oxidation became shadow and black holes. Everything of presence. Events circle and haunt
Is it loud enough?
because rocks housed churches. Name, rising from starlight to discover something, blooms punctuated by last word and first. Symmetrical steeples, a long, slow letting go beyond sedimentary masses, letting go of why. She speaks of everything, some ephemeral stuff. Where? What? Singing and praising, here, after the irregular syllables, shapes, corporeal accumulate, while the mystery is then, perhaps, that satisfies the process. Who is elusive, has no name, because near, for near, name this, for far, name this, rename this. After the deluge, no sound except, perhaps, what? Words? Yellow, blue, and... The question who, this time, essence. Talk to us, reach out, and heart, hear, remember, whose words enter. Often windows agape name, the voice, geological, visible, ephemeral stuff, out of the beyond, the subject, the abyss, the universe encompasses that itself. Mysteries, again and again, keeps on. Could starlight, important semblance, its shapes necessarily rising until through eons, growing present out of expanse, amassed all? the inarticulate, the syllable, of breath and body, of hold, of name, the sound of named, of naming. Us being memory, stories, silence, beyond words, before anything solidifies. Some nights, except when there is no name either or time, everything echoes. Rhythmic and synonymous, shadow and welcome, words resurrect and include, accumulate, haunt. Although they carry the holy world, could be that it blooms.
That's it. That's it. So thank you. I'd like to, if we have time, open it for questions. Do we have time?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's take this off. Is it okay to leave it on this image? Trude?
Okay. Actually, that was a lot faster than I thought it would be.
You did great.
We have 2 minutes.
Okay.
Are there any questions?
I mean, it was. Any thoughts or comments?
Summer has
I'm happy.
a question.
Okay.
Yeah, are you using any websites or anything to archive your work, like Artist Archive, or are you doing it yourself?
How are you archiving your work?
How am I archiving? On the back of everything. I wish I had done this, but I think it's only possible now with computer and with the technology. You have a code. You have your name, like your initials, the date, and then whether it's a painting, print, whatever the medium is, and then on each, you put this on the back of each work, and then you put the number, and then you keep a record of those. And I've never worked in a systematic way, so I don't know how you do this exactly as you work along, but I can go back and look at it and see maybe this is how it goes. So I'm going back to do it. But I took a workshop because now there's a systematic way of doing this. So there's a workshop that can be taken in, let's see, it's in Southeast Portland. So I'll see if I can get that information for you. But it's a good thing to know.
Why is it a good thing to know?
Why?
Why?
Why is it good? Well, because my adult children will have to deal with things eventually. And if I want anything preserved, maybe I need to think about what it is and where I want it, what I want to happen to it. And I'm also getting rid of a lot of things. I'm tearing up things. You know, I could have a bonfire if it's on paper. So I'm really trying to decide what's worth keeping. So I don't know, maybe for some people it's not worth it, but I'm trying to do it for my adult children. And maybe there'll be a grandchild who's an artist in there, something like that. But I think I went to a talk by Judy Cook the other day, and what she did, she talked about keeping a journal, and that's why I mentioned it, keeping a journal where a page every day where she wrote down what she was doing. And so essentially you could do that, just keep your sketchbook and indicate what you're doing. Or you could photograph things. I don't know how you do that. If you work like me, which is not systematic, it's hard. Okay. Any other questions? That was very practical.
David.
Yes.
I forgot one.
Okay, think about it. David.
Yeah, I was just going to ask, you were saying in right around 2012 you saw that Hubble photograph
Yeah.
from the 20s, and the work before that was very, it was maybe more literal or more specific, and then after that you seem to let go and really embrace chance. And I was wondering if you could just describe, how long did that process take? Did you just wake up
To change.
and you were a different person, or
Yeah.
how did that happen? Because they seem so different.
Okay. I think I'm getting it, but maybe Kinder can help me here. He wants to know how long, after I saw Hubble, how long did it take me to actually figure out what I was doing?
Well, and also embracing chance in your process.
Chance. Oh.
Because
Oh.
before that 2000.
Okay. No, I think when I started doing collage, I started tearing things up, and then I had a whole pile of stuff also that I could put back together again. So I think it was that fragmentation. There was always some element of chance. So I think that's where it started. And with painting, I always felt like nothing ever comes out or ends up to be what it starts out to be. And so there's always something that changes. And I do feel like it's a dialogue. I just mentioned that with the big piece, but it's a dialogue. You do something, and then the painting, it becomes something, and it kind of gives you some feedback, what to do next. So that feels like an element of chance in there too, because it's not what I thought it was going to be. It's something else, always. But then I just kind of embraced it because it really became fun. What's happened that's better than I might anticipate. Does that answer it?
Oh, yeah.
At all?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's great.
Anybody else?
Did you still have a question?
I
Yeah.
can't remember.
Okay.
Do you have a favorite piece you've done recently?
Do I have a favorite piece, a painter, somebody I like?
Something you've done.
What?
Something you've done lately that you really.
Do
Do you have a favorite piece that you've done?
Oh, the favorite piece that I've done. It's always the most recent, what I'm doing right now. It's what I'm doing right now. So I'd say that little blue piece. Okay. Anything else? Okay. I hope that maybe you think of about some of the things that I mentioned. I don't know how many of you are thinking that you'd like to become artists in your class, but I see some people nodding. But, about dreams deferred. Yeah. Yes.
You got one that's memorable, say? One that is memorable?
Something about memorable.
Based on, maybe you remember it because based on experience per se,
Okay, I know you're asking about.
Something stuck to you.
Asking if you could elaborate on the idea of memory.
The idea of memory.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, yes, in some cases, all of these things, I think there's a memory that's kind of lodged, maybe in the unconscious or a little bit unconscious, like with this image of the house, but also the fact that I used photographs of my family, and they were older photographs, so that those were memories. But then shadows are memory, the things that are ephemeral, that go away, are memories. So that's worth a whole a whole discussion. I don't know if that answers it at all, but maybe that's just a bit of a beginning. What do you think?
How about one that you remember the most doing, and keeping that in mind? For example, it stuck to you.
Okay. Can you? You can hear? Okay. I can tell essentially what you're saying, but I need some.
No, they're asking if there's a piece that you remember making.
That I remember making.
Yeah.
Oh, a
But
particular
I'm assuming
piece.
that you'd probably say the most recent ones. are
Okay,
the
no, a
most
piece that I
recent.
remember making that I like.
One that stuck to you.
Well, when I went through this, I pulled out some of the ones that I especially like, but maybe I like the kintsugi one with the little line that runs through it. That one, I like some of those very early ones too. Let's see. There's some in here some that are in my that were in the images that you saw that aren't in my slides here. But let's see. Just looking. Okay, here's one. I don't know if we can get back. Yeah,
one
there's
with the
some
color?
right in this area.
Let's see if I get back there. This one?
Okay, if you get
One more?
right, that one.
Yeah.
This large one on the silk, I think, both of these, because they move, because they hang and they move out, and there's something about the way that one on the left fits in there, and the sort of the mysterious figure when you're standing in front of it, it's bigger than human scale, so maybe it's the scale of that one. Does that help? Okay.
Summer and.
Well, she has her hand up, but I don't know.
There's a screen right here, sorry.
It's not my initial, like, I guess, idea, but I like how you talk about art having energy and, like, the different feelings that these paintings or pieces, like, give you. Because I feel the same way whenever I see, like, a painting or a drawing that I really am inspired by or I really like I can feel almost that energy that it's bringing to me and the life
Yeah.
it's bringing me.
I think I understood what you were saying. It's the idea that you feel the energy of the person who made it. So it makes a connection. You make a connection, and so you kind of know that person.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
You, like,
So
feel
they're letting you know them.
energy, I guess.
Hmm. Thank you. Yeah.
How about back there?
Hi, my brain just loaded. You talk a lot about how some of your recent work, you deal with, it has a dialogue, how you leave a lot of it to chance, to fate. How, especially in the ones where you like have to break it or destroy it a bit before turning it into an art piece, how deliberate is the breakage? Do you go for something specific, or do you just feel it out? Do you just let fate decide?
Okay. I really want to answer your questions. Let's see.
Kind of asking about like the process, right? Like, is there planning,
Like when, specifically during the breakage, how planned is it?
Yeah.
Do you go for something specific, or is it just?
Yeah. So in the newer work, where chance is a big part of
Work with chance is part.
is a
Great.
big part of the process.
Yeah.
How much would you say planning comes in? And what does that planning look like for you?
Okay. Well, I think of when I stop and think about it, I really do have something in mind. I do plan. I mean, it feels to me like I'm just starting, but I do have something in mind because I'm choosing the size, I'm choosing the ground, the materials. You know, am I going to work on paper? Am I going to work on a fabric? Or UPO. So that's a choice. What size? What shape? And then what imagery is going to go into it. So sometimes I start with just like a blot of something, but with these figures, I could start with the shape, say of those Minoan pieces. So I can say I want to use this shape. Sometimes I could use a stencil to start with, and then I put that down, and then I kind of try to destroy the stencil, or I can do something kind of random, and then use a stencil or something over the top, and then do another layer and destroy that. So it's a back and forth. I don't know if that answers it. Okay, thank you. That helps to do this. Okay.
Summer?
Yeah. Were there times throughout your career that you felt discouraged as an artist, and how did you overcome that?
Were there times in your career where you felt discouraged, and then how did you overcome that?
Yes, I think I mentioned that beginning at the beginning where I felt I've forgotten what the word was exactly, but kind of downcast, like after the Langston Hughes poem. It was taking a class, a drawing class, helped, but also looking at other artwork, reading something. New materials, just going to the art supply store and buying some paint, something I'd never used before, trying something new. But yes, there have been many times actually, even in the middle of doing something too, I think, oh, like that big one that I talked about, okay, I better leave it alone, go away, get some rest, read something, come back, and see what happens next. But so I have a lot of things that I would consider failures, but how do you know what's a success, or when something's done or when something's failed? I mean, it's a matter of opinion or maybe a feeling. So, but yes.
Did you take breaks throughout your career, like extended breaks?
Did you take extended breaks throughout your career?
I've taken breaks, but I always wonder what's wrong. There's something that feels, I'm kind of in a bad mood or something, and after a while, and I think, oh yeah, I know why. I need to be making something, I need to be drawing, I need to be doing something. So I think basically I've always done something. I may have taken breaks to make something of some scale or some that will take over a period of time, but I've always made something. Maybe those are the small things, like those collages that I mentioned. I could make one when I have small children. I had an hour? I could make something. So I've always done something like that, but it may have also been writing. So either writing or painting or drawing. I also didn't show early drawings, pencil drawings or graphite drawings, because I did a lot of drawing, and I also took a lot of art, anatomy and figure drawing. So I didn't show those. I don't have really early images of those, but I have those too. So I have a lot of drawing. Okay? Uh-huh.
You've traveled a lot through your life. Is there one place that you felt really inspired you that you kind of like to return to?
Okay, I heard inspired.
So you've traveled a lot.
Uh-huh.
Is there a place that you would like to go back to?
Oh, okay.
That's inspired you significantly?
Yes. Well, there are many places I'd like to go back to, but I'm thinking in particular of Crete and the Heraclean Museum and those little terracotta figures. Because well, my husband is back there, and he knows how many hours, how many days I spent in the Heraclean, and it was still not enough. I mean, it's pretty incredible to see those little pieces and to draw them, because the drawing took some time. And also, I had to get used to people looking over my shoulder, and I'm not used to that. So I'd have to kind of wait till people went away and then start, and then people would come back. So, so I'd like to go back there. Mm-hmm.
Do you have a way to just like clear your mind while drawing, so you can just start drawing, not have to worry about like your thoughts or like, oh, this looks bad, you just kind of go?
Okay, I think you're asking me if I do something, I make something or draw a drawing, and I look at it and I say, oh, this is bad, and I discard it, or just...
Yeah, but is there a way to get around that? Like,
no way to get around it?
like a way to clear your mind?
Okay.
To trick yourself out of self-doubt.
Self-doubt.
Is there something
To get out of self-doubt?
Yeah.
Well, tear it up and glue it back together somehow. And really, seriously. Because save what you don't like. If you think it really, you can always paint over something. But yeah, that's what I think I would do. That's my intuitive answer. To see what happens when you glue it back together. In the workshop that I'm taking, the one through PMCA, I don't know if you know the place that I mentioned. It's under the Morrison Bridge. It's a place for artists. There's all kinds of material and junk stuff there. But what they had us do, we wrote, and then we tore up what we wrote, but we also rewrote it in some sort of form. Some people wrote in circles. I wrote up and down. And then we tore that up, and they had all kinds of paper scraps. We glued everything back together somehow. When everything was, I don't like to rush, but it was rushed because there was the time element. So it's very imperfect. It's not something I'd put out in the world, but I like it a lot because it's just kind of scrappy. So now what the next step, and all of the other people in the class were about your age. And so I was slow, they all finished. So now what we're to do is to turn it over, make other shapes, and I think I'm going to make letters, and then trace on the back of it, where you can't see the collage on the front. So you've also glued words in some place in there. So you, on the back, make a shape, trace it, cut it out, and see what you've got on the other side. And then you put those back together into some sort of collage. So I'm just trying to follow their process at the moment, so I don't know what's going to happen. There are 3 more classes, each on a Wednesday night. So I don't know whether they'll offer this again. Jay Ponteri and Elizabeth, I want to say Afrangi, I don't think that's right. Arzani, Elizabeth Arzani. So I hope that helps. Okay.
Do you ever find yourself like going back to paint over previous works?
I have, but if they're very old, I don't try to remedy them. I don't try to make something else out of them. It would be better to just sand it down. And maybe you could have some remnants of something there to paint over, but I don't try to repaint anything. I find that the world has moved on, and I've kind of moved on with it. And so that feels like stuck in a time. Other people do, I think, paint over paintings, but I don't usually. So, do you? No. Okay. I mean, there's nothing. There's not a right or a wrong way to do that. I don't know. There are other artists here, and I don't know. Do you ever paint over anything? Make things?
I've held them under running water in the sink and scrubbed them off.
Scrub them off.
Yeah, I've done that. But that is more when I'm in process.
That's the whole process.
Work.
Yeah.
No, it's not part of the process, but that is when I am in process with a painting. But a painting that I've had for several years, that's just around the studio, I don't tend to
I can't,
work over.
Mm-hmm.
Can I just add
another painter?
Okay. Can I just add that if you have an older piece of artwork and you put it online or you put it in a show, make sure you take it offline before you paint over it, because it's inevitable that you will sell it right after you paint over it. So just be careful about that.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't paint, but I used to work a lot with colored pencils, and I have a lot of old work that I did when I was in middle school or something, and I keep them all in a big plastic bin under my bed, and I only look at them when I want to feel pain.
What did she say? What did they say?
They said they have older artwork and it's a way to feel pain again.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I noticed in like the progression of the work over the years, you experiment a lot with just like sometimes very like unconventional mediums, like the oxidization and other things. How is it? Did you experiment with those things for the sake of experimentation and expression, or was it because of just the materials themselves being able to tell that story? Does that make sense? Sorry.
Okay, I want to come have a whole conversation with you.
That's a good question. Okay, I'm going to rephrase it a little bit. Okay, so like the ephemeral materials like oxidized silver.
Yeah.
Are you excited to work with that because it's an experiment and it's an ephemeral experiment, or are you interested in what the material itself says? The symbolism of silver.
Yeah.
Is that about right?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. I think all of that. I mean, the idea that it's ephemeral. I think I mentioned Renaissance wax in there. I don't know if you know what that is, but it was made by the British Museum, a microcrystalline wax that's supposed to stop oxidation, because photographs, I think, can oxidize. The old silver halide photographs and the photographs that are made with silver can oxidize. So it was made to be put over photographs and also sculpture that can oxidize. So I put that over some the older pieces that just are silver leaf. So to try to stop the oxidation, but I don't think you can stop oxidation. I didn't say this, but we oxidize, you know. And so that's part of the symbolism of it for me. Things change, they fall apart, like the dancer that I talked about, but we are oxidizing, and so, you know, we can't stop things permanently, and everything ultimately, you know, what's going to happen to it? We don't know. So I think both that idea, though, of working with something that's more ephemeral appeals to me, too, because things feel very ephemeral right now. I mean, the world feels that way, to me. I hope that kind of answered. Okay.
Any other questions? All right. Well, good job.
Thank you. Thank you.